Hey guys, my name is Felicia Follum, and this is a video in my Race Talk series. On Instagram, the hashtag is RaceTalkFF. I'm going to be looking down more for this one than the others. I just have notes for the terms. But this question is, which terms should I use? Black, people of color, African American, all of those things. Personally, I'm not super offended when people use the wrong term. I'm also very comfortable saying like, oh, maybe don't use that one. It's going to not come off right in some situations. But black is what is most commonly used. Black is capitalized because it is a people group. Well, I don't know if that's why it's capitalized, but it refers to anyone from the diaspora, the African diaspora. So anyone that came from Africa can be black. In the United States, black does usually refer to descendants of slaves, descendants of African Americans who have been in the U.S. for a few generations. And first generation, I think African immigrants also do consider themselves black as well. It kind of depends, though. I work with refugees, and a lot of the refugees I work with consider themselves black if they are actually dark-skinned. It doesn't have to do with being a descendant of or being from Africa. So there's some differences there within the communities I work with specifically. I do consider myself black, and when people say that I'm not black, I think it's disrespectful. And I will tell you that you're being disrespectful if you tell me that I'm not black. That's not your place. So know that I am black. I am also half white, and I have other things in me, but I am still black, and that's because of blackness is kind of unique in that it's not based on I'm literally brown. With internationals, I'm considered brown. Africans, I'm usually considered brown or even white. But as far as my identity, my ethnicity, my experience in America, I'm black. So that's black. African American, I do use African American more than a lot of black people. I've actually been told oh, African American's the wrong term to use. I think African American is more specific than black. It's less generic than black. Let me see. So yeah, it's more historical, I guess. It's more specific and more historical. And I sometimes say black, or I say African American more than other people because my minor was in African American and diaspora studies. So sometimes when black people are like, you can't say African American, I'll be like, that's my degree. I can say it. That's what the term is. And so I think but no one uses diaspora, the diaspora. No one says that, right? So African American or black. I personally use them quite a bit. Denying that I'm black is equally obnoxious as denying that I'm African American. It doesn't make sense. It's not accurate. Person of color includes all people of color, Asian, everything, right? BIPOC stands for Black and Indigenous People of Color or Person of Color, and that refers to African Americans, Black people, as well as Indigenous people, like it sounds like, Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos that are of the Native Indigenous people groups. And Black and Indigenous people of color have kind of a similar experience. And growing up in South Dakota, I see the parallels very clearly. Even though they're different experiences, they're more clumped together with some of the negative slavery history, colonialism, all of those things. People of color includes, like I said, Asian specifically earlier. It includes Black, Indigenous, Asian, everything else that isn't considered white. And so in Asian people, I think, are having a harder time now with racism than at other periods in time, but they've had challenges, but so have white immigrants as well. So it kind of gets, there's different groupings, right? And white, I think, is something that people are not a fan of always, because it lumps, I'm half white, but I'm actually a quarter Scotch-Irish, an eighth Dutch, and an eighth German. That's kind of the breakdown based on our family tree. I don't know about genetics and DNA, all that. But yeah, so that, I know that that's kind of an offensive thing, but white is not meant to describe an entire people group's experience in the country, right? So white is different. So getting into, actually, the why don't we have a White History Month? I'll get into that in the next video. But I think those are most of the terms. Oh yeah, so saying colored people is almost always offensive because it references historical separation, separate but equal, all of those dark things of the past. So colored people is offensive and disrespectful and rude. But people of color is the way that you want to do it. So I know it can be difficult and challenging, but those are kind of some breakdowns of the terms from my perspective. Again, other people will identify different things based on their specific experiences, where they grew up, those types of things as well. So can't speak for everybody on this, but that's kind of my breakdown of those things and who says what and why.